to another episode of LaunchPad Live, where we spotlight food and beverage entrepreneurs who are making a difference and actually moving the needle on their businesses. It's a bi weekly series where we shine a light on those who are doing really well and also those services that you may not know that much about yet that we've uncovered in our exploration of this small entrepreneurial food and beverage business. And our hope is to share their stories as well, because they can certainly help move your businesses ahead. I do want to thank our sponsors, Culture Advisory Group, as well as Food Processing Skills Canada. Now, today we're talking with David Spadafora, who has co founded the brand. It's under Berts Food, but the specific brand you might look for in the grocery store is Oh My Okra. Now, this is out of category. Haven't seen a lot of these, so it's an unusual story, and so is David's background. He came from the construction industry, went for a drive in Charleston, visited a farmer's market, and pivoted to the snack food category in 2016. That's a huge leap with no background knowledge. Lots of us that have worked in the CPG industry, the question we often get is, well, how come you didn't go out and start a business in a food category? Now, I want you to know that I did. So I did do the leap, but I was doing it with a lot of background foundational information. So David, since you're the brand and the person, perhaps you can give us a bit of an overview of my very short, quick introduction about what you did and where are you at today with your brand and why is it different, making a difference, getting the traction that it's getting. Welcome again. Thanks.
Thank you, Trisha. I appreciate that lovely introduction, and thank you for the write up, and thank you for everybody that's on this call today. Just feel very blessed and grateful to have this experience. Yeah. So as Trisha mentioned, my name is David Spadafora. I'm the co-founder of the brand Oh My Okra. The company's called Berts Foods. We trademarked Oh My Okra back in 2019 when we launched our brand. And just a road trip to Charleston. My wife Lori and I took a trip to Charleston. Came across this farmers market selling these okra crisps in these cellophane bags, and we tried samples. And we bought a couple bags, and this huge light bulb turned on above our heads, and it's been bright ever since. And we're here today selling okra snacks. So. Um, what's interesting is how we transitioned from I went from project management to selling okra snacks out the back of my car essentially. And now we're here today, uh, about 66 7 years later, and we're still here, so we're very grateful and very blessed. um, the transition, I would say, allowed me from project management to bring some of those skill sets over, um, to selling snacks, because with project management, you need to know numbers, you need to look ahead and look at some of the risks, and those skill sets have helped us find success in this business. Um, so yeah, we launched our brand in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic, and within the first, I'd say within the first 5 months of launching, we were in about 100 stores across Canada.
Which
We
is
had
great. Yeah, very good start. Now, was there something in particular, a problem? Lots of people want to make healthy snacks. What was behind? Like you tasted this, you thought it tasted great, you want people to share it. What was the opportunity that you identified with this?
in Canada, there wasn't really much with the vacuum dehydrated snacks. It wasn't that big. It wasn't even a category or a subcategory in the beginning. So when we came across this product, this okra snack, and the benefits behind it, like it was high in fiber. Like we have a 40-gram bag of there's 40 grams in each bag, and each bag has over 10 grams of fiber, and that's not added fiber. That's the actual fiber that comes from the vegetable itself. And so when we saw these benefits, we thought this would be a great product to bring to the market. Um, and then the story behind Bert's Foods, and the reason why we called it Bert's Foods, is because when we looked at the benefits of okra, we saw that our okra was great for people with diabetes and high blood pressure. And my father-in-law, who passed away over 20 years ago from type 2 diabetes. Um, we thought we'd name it after him. People, his friends used to call him Bert, so we thought we'd call it Bert's Foods, and base the brand on two of his greatest qualities: honesty and integrity, and just build a brand where we can bring healthy snacks to the market, full transparency. You look at the ingredient deck, and it's just natural. It's just whole peas of okra, and then no additives, no no garbage in the product. It's just a clean ingredient deck, and that's what we wanted to do. We want to build a brand on full transparency and integrity, and be the change we wanted to see. We're all consumers at the end of the day, and we all want quality products. So when
So
we first, yeah.
who you've identified, you've said diabetic and healthy things, but is who did you think the customer might be? And then who have you found your customer is? Because often there's a
It,
difference in the volume opportunity too, right?
yeah, so you want to find your target market, right? And at the end of the day, Lori and I were the target market. We were people that were looking for better quality ingredients and healthier options. And so that resonated with us, and that resonated with a lot of people in the market. So when we first launched our product, we took part in a lot of the health food shows, and we had people coming and just sampling the product, and the feedback was very positive. They're like, it's whole pieces of okra. You crunch into it and you see the seeds. It's not heavily processed. The ingredient deck was clean, simple ingredients, and that resonated with a lot of people who are looking for healthier options, that are health conscious. And then you get the people that have diabetes can, who have a hard time finding snacks out there. So it's always beautiful when you're sampling your product and people come and say, you're one of the only snacks that I can consume. And that almost gives you the ambition and fire to keep going, because you clearly have something there. And now we're here 7 years later, and we're still selling okra snacks. So
So you've mentioned there's customer moments. And again, it's another thing to be at the back of the car. It's another
yeah,
thing to be at a consumer trade show or farmer's market. But somewhere between there, you went into retail. So what was the first big experience at retail? And from there, how did it
yeah.
catapult to being a successful brand?
Yeah, so when we first looked at the research and development of our snacks, we had reached out to that farmers market back then, and we asked if he wanted to wholesale our product, and he totally shut down on us, and that kind of raised flags, but that got us, curious. So we did some digital traveling through Google and tried to find out how this product was made, and we realized that it was vacuum dehydration. So what we do is we cook the product within a vacuum. In that vacuum, it allows us to pull the oxygen out and cook at a very low temperature. So we get best of both worlds. We get that crunch from the frying, but then we get low oil absorption with the dehydration, and we get to retain a lot of the nutrients in the product. And so when we first decided to launch our product, it's very costly to open up a manufacturing facility with this large equipment. So we found manufacturers all over the world, and we started ordering samples from all over the place, and we finally pinpointed a manufacturer that was willing to work with us. This product's done in other parts of the world, but they do it with a sugar soaking. And so we thought, if we want to bring this healthy snack to the market, we can't call it healthy if it has a sugar soaking. So we found a manufacturer that was willing to take the sugar soaking out, and we worked with them during the R&D and the launch. So before we went to market, because we didn't have a manufacturer and we weren't making it in our kitchen, we thought, let's go out to distributors and see if anybody has an appetite to support this brand and want to, take us on. And so we found a local distributor out of Guelph, and we presented our product even before we launched, and they liked the product. They thought it was very unique, and they thought it would do well. And so right then and there, they're like, yeah, we'll purchase a pallet. So even before, like, we launched, like, Lori and I got a purchase order for a pallet, and we're like, okay, we gotta order. There's something there, and then it just snowballed. So to anybody listening trying to start a brand, sometimes you just need to kick the snowball down the hill, right? And just start. But
And
yeah,
so then, did you have a co-packer in Ontario? Because you're talking Guelph. Someone says they want to place an order.
yeah.
And you need, like, I'm sure you've kicked the tires on where you could possibly co-pack, but they want commitments too, right? There's volume and you need some money and you got to put that all up front. What
Yeah,
was,
no, that's
how did
yeah.
that happen for you?
So because Ontario is the largest of the provinces and the larger population, they have the manufacturing hubs and co-packers here in Ontario, but the minimum orders are very, very high. And so when you're first starting off as a small brand, you're either cooking in your kitchen or you're cooking in a ghost kitchen, or you go the direction that we went and you find a co-packer. But then the co-packer, their minimum orders are like 10,000 bags and 20,000 bags, and at the time you're only in like 5 stores, 10 stores, and you're like, okay, I have all this product and the clock is ticking because you have your best before date. So we did some more research and asking and leveraging our network and just knocking on doors. And you'd be surprised how many people want to help you once you start asking questions. And we met some great mentors along the way, and we realized that BC had manufacturers and co-packers, and they had a lower MOQ, so they had more of an appetite for startups and the local brands. So we found a co-packer out in BC that was willing to work with us and kind of start there with some low MOQs and kind of get our feet wet in the market, and that's kind of how we started. So we didn't have all this volume in storage and like panicking to sell it, so that was kind of a way for us to get over that initial obstacle to what you were asking.
So then you're making a commitment to someone out in BC, but let's say, because you're living and working in Ontario, you've got to bring the product in, etc. And, you just don't go to a warehouse that you can just put inventory in. What were first you solve one problem. What's the next thing? And, how do you deal with all of those issues?
Yeah, so I think it's very important that you find the right co-packer and anybody in what you're trying to accomplish. I think finding the right partnership is important, and you're essentially vetting them and qualifying them because you want to find the right fit. You don't want to get with a co-packer and then you put in a purchase order and they say we're not going to have your product for 2 months, and now you've lost 2 months. Like, so building those relationships is key. And we've gone through brokers and co-packers and distributors, and we found successes and we found failures, and that's just part of the business. And going through those lessons learned is important. So to your point, how you said earlier, nothing happens overnight. Success doesn't happen overnight. No, you have to overcome those obstacles, and overcoming those obstacles will get you ready for the big retailers. So we were fortunate enough to actually move out to Vancouver for a few years and kind of vet and qualify co-packers out there until we found somebody that we were willing to work with. So when we came back, we knew that we had our relationship with our co-packer, and they've been great to us ever since. And I think building those relationships is so important. So you want to start by building the foundation. You want to find the right co-packer. You want to find the right sales group. You want to find the right distributor. You want to find the right mentors. We didn't know nothing about food and beverage. So when we first thought about getting into this industry, we're like, we need mentors who have been in this industry for quite some time and could kind of help guide us, right? And so we've been blessed and grateful in that sense.
So now I noticed this year in January, the note came into my mailbox that your brand was Mintel shortlisted it in North America as one of the best new products in 2025. Now that's a great, of course I had to explain to you, no, Mintel's very important, David. It's a cool thing, coming not from the food industry where we know all the, what were some success metrics or points that said, yep, I'm going to keep going? Was there something in particular, an obvious metric, not just dollar sales? Because that's not
Yeah.
real. is the only thing that motivates you? Were there some metrics that made you say, this is a real thing? I'm in the food business. I'm in the snack food category.
Yeah. So I think I think the metrics come along the way, and you use those metrics use those metrics and those wins to leverage to get to grow and to scale. So for us, the first metric was, you know, I think having our family and friends say this is a good product when we first present to them. Then from there, the distributor, the first purchase order, right? A distributor likes our product because a distributor knows their industry, right? They've been in the industry for quite some time. They have the connections, and then once they start presenting to retailers, when we first got our first listing, it was with a small mom and pop shop grocery, and Lori and I drove out there. It was like an hour drive, and we drove out there. We took a picture in front of it, and it was a huge win for us because at the time it was our first store. Like, there's a store that wanted what? There's a store that wanted our okra snacks, and then from there, we started leveraging that and getting into the next retailer and the next retailer. And then the next big win for us was getting into Whole Foods. Whole
Okay.
Foods was huge because that was our target market. Like our Oh My Okra snack performs better in Whole Foods than any other retailer, and that's our target market.
So I was going
So
to ask you that because sometimes people get into Whole Foods and it's okay, and some other stores like, whoa, big success. What did you do in Whole Foods? What did you have to do? Is it just it went on shelf and those people just like looking for new things, or did you have to do something in store that helped stimulate the brand pickup?
I think I would say in store there's a few things that you can do. You can do the sampling and the demos, right? You can get in front of customers and get people to try. I think for us that was a huge obstacle because okra is very unique. So okra is not well known in Canada. Well, we don't consume it and we don't grow it. It does very well in the southern states because it's used in gumbos and also in other cultural dishes like Indian cuisine and Pakistani cuisine, Chinese cuisine. But for the majority of Canadians, a lot of people don't know what okra is. So getting people to try it was a hurdle for us because they'd be like, "What is okra?" And they're like, "Just try it." They're like, "Oh, this is really good, right?" So sampling was one of them, and then for us, I would say in-store promos because when you're in an aisle with other snacks, what's going to get someone to pick up your product over another product, right? And then we can't be naive to think that everybody's eating okra all the time. Even myself, when I go into a snack aisle, by the way, I do like snacks, clearly. uh, when I get into a snack aisle, like sometimes I want salt and vinegar. Sometimes I want like a Dorito style chip, or a potato chip, or what, or a pretzel, right? So our preferences are changing, and then you have a lot of colors and marketing thrown at you as well. So you're bombarded with all this, being like psychologically manipulated by all this marketing. So it's like, okay, how do we get our product into people's hands? And packaging design is huge as well. Packaging, it has to stand out.
So if you could go back, looking at what you know now, is there some of those pivot points? Um, what would you do differently? Is there something in particular? I mean, get market research, find your mentor sooner, not, but thinking about some of the pivot points. And I know we talked about, you were talking to an entrepreneur and they said, the bank's calling my loan. What do I do? Is that a
Yeah.
pivot point quite often for a small business?
I would think that majority of CPG brands that are just getting into the market don't realize the amount of resources and capital it takes. Because you just think about it, if we get a purchase order for, let's say, 1,000 units, we have to fulfill that 1,000 units. But if it's 1,000 units, there's a chance that if it does well, they're going to want another 1,000 units. So you need to have enough capital for that 1,000 units, and then the next 1,000 units, and then the next 1,000 units after that, along with all the other expenses that come with running a business. So cash flow was huge for us. I think maybe in the beginning, raising more capital,
Mhm.
getting more people on board would have been something for us. But that's always that's always an obstacle, whether you're scaling at one point or another, whether you're just starting off or you're 10 years in. It all depends on your goals and what you want to accomplish with your brand, right? There's some brands that they see this being a legacy brand, right? It's going to take a long time, or maybe they want to raise money and sell it after 5 years for, I don't know, $100 million, hopefully,
So,
right?
so David, were you basically like most small food business entrepreneurs doing this on love money?
Yeah, so it was basically Lori and I, we put our money in, and we, put our backs to the wall, and we went kind of all in. And I think you have to go all in if you truly believe it. You have to go all in. We've seen brands fail because they weren't all in. Maybe they have like a full-time job and they do this on the side, and then they're afraid, and they're kind of like teeter-tottering by, you know when do I make the leap, when do I go, when do I leave my job and go full throttle. Um, it's not it's a very lonely road. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. The downs are very dark. The ups are very a lot of fun, but the lows are can be dark, so you really need to have a strong foundation.
So that leads me to the mindset shift. And you did have Lori, so the two of you were doing this together. But
Yeah.
and that can be good. Negative mind can attract negative mind, and positive mind can lift you out. But
Hmm.
a lot of people, it's their idea, and they want, yes, they have teams supporting and they have family support, but maybe their partner is working, so they can go against this full time and put it in. But what kind of mindset shifts did you read a lot of personal development books? What was
did
going
a
on there?
did a lot of meditation.
Okay.
uh, no, I think if you do have a partner in your life, that support system is huge. And then the support system around you, building that support system. And you need to build that support system and surround yourself with people who believe in you, people who believe in the product, and people who will champion you. And most importantly, you have to be the number one fan in your own life for yourself, most number one. But your partner and the people around you are huge, because when it gets low, like, you need people to kind of, they'll reach out their hand, and they'll support you, and they'll help you, and they'll keep you going. It can be very, very, very lonely. Yeah. So
So again, a lot of people listening are on this call are between recipe and scaling in that messy middle that we've been kind of nudging towards. Would you say year 0 to 2 was your toughest, or maybe lots of highs because you were getting all this positive feedback? Is year 3 and 4 tougher? 5 and 6? Is there, because you've been talking about lows and highs.
yeah.
And did it get harder? Because I guess the more orders you had, the more you had to do. When did you get sort of the break where you think we've landed?
I would say it just keeps getting harder, but
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't get easier. But what you've learned yesterday allows you to take on tomorrow,
Okay.
right? So you, like, all these lessons learned helps you iron out a lot of those wrinkles in your supply chain, distribution, sales. It doesn't get easier because the pressures just stack up. You get into a small mom and pop shop and you can do some sales, and that's great. But then what about if like a Walmart comes to you and they want to put you in 500 stores, and now you have to perform, right? Uh,
So
the
what's
law.
what are you thinking when Walmart comes to you and says, "And I want to put you in 500 stores"? What is your mind doing? Okay, inventory. Where do what do you
Yeah,
think?
so you need to really have a strong distribution channel and a strong supply chain. So you need to have those. And what's interesting is, in the first 1 to 2 years, you're figuring out like that supply chain. What are the best suppliers? What's the best costing models for that? You're running through your cost analysis. You're ironing out a lot of those kinks in your supply, trying to find the right raw materials. You also want to have suppliers that will supply you the product when you need it, like the raw materials. Because if, let's say, Walmart were to put in an order for that, and the supplier says, "Oh, we're backlogged," well, now you're in a tough situation. So really strengthening that foundation. And I always say, like, you want to build your foundation. And I get to bring those skill sets from project management because I used to build condos in downtown Toronto, and it was all about building the foundation. The foundation was the most important piece of building the condo, because all that weight was on that foundation. So you wanted to really take your time and build that solid foundation. And that's what we did with Oh My Okra. Like, the focus has always been building the foundation, building the supply chain, the distribution chain, the sales chain, like all those working parts. So then when you do get a retailer like that, you're ready. Chances are you won't get a retailer that big unless you have those pieces in place, because they're not stupid either. Like, the category manager or category buyer, they're looking at everything, right? They're looking at your revenue, they're looking at your socials, they're looking at your distribution channels. Are you working with a co-packer? What's the co-packer's capacity? How many bags can they, or jars or whatever, can they produce? Do they have all the certifications? You need to be ready, right? Or else you won't even get that opportunity. And you really don't want that opportunity unless you're ready, right?
What about someone like Costco? Is that an opportunity for your brand?
Yes, definitely. It is an opportunity. And Costco is interesting. Costco has either they list you if they really like the product, or you go through a roadshow, and the roadshow allows you to build some data. I'd say baby steps. If you're a brand, baby steps. This is a long play. You're not going to find success overnight. It does take almost 10 years to build a brand, from what we're seeing with other brands. And we're hopefully closer to the tail end of that 10 years. But it does take time. It does take a long, so you really have to think long term, and you need a lot of patience. So this has definitely taught me a lot of patience, this industry.
And the patience is waiting for the answers, waiting for the orders, waiting for how do you find okra? What's the patience? Where are you applying it when you say I need patience?
The patience is on every aspect of the business. So, for example, we'll take the category manager of, let's say, like a Sobeys or Loblaws. Typically, those retailers, they review a category once a year. So if you're not ready for that review, or you miss that review, you got to wait another year. You got to wait 12 months.
Wow.
Then, if they review the product, um, and they don't like it, or you're not ready, they'll say, okay, come back next year. So you got to wait another year. Then if they do like it and they do list you, you're waiting at least 8 to 9 months to get on the shelf. So now you have to have enough cash flow to get to that 9 months. And who knows, they might even push it because maybe they get busy. Maybe they're opening up another location, and they have to put it on the back burner. So just understanding that just because you got the listing, it doesn't mean you're going to be on the shelf within the next month and you're going to get a purchase order right away, right? So understanding that really teaches you patience to, like, okay, just breathe, take a step back, breathe, understand, work that into your projections, work that into your forecast. That even with a distributor, we get listed with a distributor, it takes at least 8 months just to get into their pipeline, right? Because you got to present to the category manager of the distributor. Then once they like the product, they set you up in the system, which takes another few months. Then you got to get the samples to all their reps. And if it's a large distributor, they might have 20 reps, 30 reps. You have to coordinate all those samples to those reps. The reps have to review it. The reps then need to send the product out to their retailers that they work with, right? And then, it's June and people are on vacation. So the reps on vacation for 2 weeks. And then the category manager is on vacation the next 2 weeks, and you're a month out, right? So you need a lot of patience.
You need a big diary with everyone's timelines. My goodness. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds like a real story and a really amazing journey for you. If you had to choose one word that sums up your journey so far, what would it be?
I would say resilience.
Resilience. And,
Yeah.
and tell me why you picked that, because of all of these people you have to know and the timing that's involved, or um, when did you kind of feel I'm really in this business? Year two, year three?
Um, I would say, when we were listed with Whole Foods, then we said, because that was a milestone for us. That was a goal for us because the great thing about that listing was their standards were a lot higher than most retailers,
Mhm.
and they were a national retailer, right?
Right.
So to get in with them, it was like huge because of all the work it takes just to present. They also take another year to review, right? So you get them to review, they give you the go ahead, and you're like, oh my god, we're in Whole Foods, like we're in one of the best, retailers in Canada for our target market. So that definitely was huge, but resilience for sure, because the like I said, the lows are very low, and you need to be strong minded to overcome a lot of those obstacles and say, I really have something here and I'm going to keep going.
So for those listeners, Sachi Couture um, owned the brand Chili. And I remember talking to her, and she did share, David, some similar experiences. But one thing she said to me when she was doing her presentations to retail, she always booked 3 a week. And if the first one bombed for her, she always looked forward to the next two. And that gave her the sustaining ability to keep going forward. So I do see there's a question here, and it would be, so I'm thinking your okra as well. It is sourced from where, and where else could you get? I mean, that would be. It's not the same as I need potatoes, so we can get some in Prince Edward Island. Where
Yeah.
do you get your key base ingredient? What are the challenges there?
Yeah. So and I think the last few years have been interesting with all the tariffs and the US and Trump and our government and just the global scale. We get our okra overseas in markets like India, China, Vietnam, and also in Mexico. So northern Mexico grows a lot of okra, and California grows okra as well. And so you're constantly like you're just not sitting on one supplier. You're constantly looking at other suppliers. You want to try to reduce your risks and bottlenecks as much as possible. So like even co-packers, we have a great co-packer right now, but I think you're always speaking with and qualifying other co-packers, just in case, because you're still strengthening your foundation in your supply chain. So always keep having conversations, always look at improving your product where you can, and that's not just the product itself, but the distribution channels, the supply chain, and everything that's involved in that.
So then I see on your website that you have new flavors that you've brought on, and so how are you managing the innovation process? What's next for you? Is it continuing to line extend with sensory differences, because that can be hard to manage at retail too?
Yeah.
What are some of the ideas that you're thinking about, as well as other countries? I would assume.
Yeah, I think you want to find a sweet spot with your offerings, right? You don't want to. So when we first launched, we launched with the one SKU, and that was a huge lesson learned because we sat in front of retailers and they said, "Okay, where's the rest of your SKU lineup?" I'm like, "This is all we got," and they're like, "You're gonna get lost on the shelf. We won't even list you because you're gonna get lost. You need more." And I'm like, "We need more." I'm like, "What are you talking about? This is the rock star." You're so naive. You're so naive when you start off, and so that allowed us to that and COVID allowed us to build two more SKUs. So we launched with afterwards. We launched with the lemon dill and the spicy sriracha. So like very unique flavors, and then now we came back to launching two more SKUs: the sour cream and onion and the southern barbecue, which were more known flavors in the market, and that kind of gave us some balance, and then the packaging just really pops on the shelf with all the colors. I think we're okay with all the SKUs that we have right now, and then just really right now just growing that into other markets. And we most recently got into the US, so we focused a little more on US expansion as well, since okra itself is is well known in the southern states like Florida, Texas, and Georgia. We've turned some of that focus to those states, and trying to build out that way. And we're always open to other markets. Sometimes we get brokers, or there's these trade missions that Canada always takes part in. So we're always talking to trade commissioners, and you're just knocking on doors and kind of seeing what opportunities are out there.
Well, David, this has been a very insightful half an hour, and there were a few questions there, which I think we've covered. So if you are building your own food and beverage brand, you can always contact him. He's very open in terms of showing story opportunities and mentoring people. So you can reach out to David. So how can they contact you, David? Just go to Oh My Okra, or?
Yeah, you can go to Oh My Okra. There's the email address there. It's just info@bertsfoods.com. And if anybody has any questions, or just some insight, I'd be more than happy to share, because we've been very grateful and blessed to have some wonderful people along the way share their knowledge and insights.
So thank you, David, very much. And I know there's another part to this story, which is, of course, what Lori ended up doing and starting an in-store sampling company based on just your experiences. So we're going to be talking about that again in our LaunchPad Live series. But thanks for joining, everyone. Watch for our next conversation, which is going to be May 6th, with Dr. Vera Dickinson. And she is the founder and CEO of InnovaQ. And we're going to explore her quality performance forecast tool. So again, there's also resources that you need, as David has pointed out, and you need to do your math around a lot of this stuff. There's some exciting programs that InnovaQ offers brand people, and we're going to be sharing what they can do to help hop and skip through some of the red tape that happens in the new product development process, as well as in food and beverage. So thanks again. Talk to you guys in 2 weeks. And David, have an awesome day and enjoy Florida.
Thank you.